But we have
more topics.
interesting news. We're revolving around HBO Max DC films because we have our first look at the body double of Michael Keaton in a flashback sequence in the new suit. Now, of course, this is not exactly 100% new. Of course, it's a body double. It's obvious. But this is part of a flashback regarding Jim Gordon, J.K. Simmons, Jim Gordon. And there's a lot of people having, thoughts and opinions, and there's confusion.
What?
I think this is a clear indication that this retcons and removes the Batfleck. Ben Affleck is no longer a part of this. The question is now, is this version of Bruce Wayne / Batman from Michael Keaton, is this the same Batman they're retconning from the Burtonverse, the 2 films that he made, specifically with Michael Keaton, or is this a variant, if you will, where the Burton films are still canon and this is just another version that's similar? Or I have no idea. We have no clue. I guess we'll find out in the Flash movie, because that's going to be our indication, because this does take place after the Flash movie. It has to. It would make no sense unless they're implying the Batgirl film is taking place in the Burtonverse, which I doubt that's what they're doing.
No, they don't, because otherwise J.K. Simmons wouldn't be there. It would be
that's true too. Unless
what's the guy who played him in he was in all 4 movies.
Yeah, he was, and I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
sorry. Twinsies. Yes. We should be one of twins.
Yes.
I want to be Jaina because she can become animals.
There you go. For me, I think it's definitely interesting to see that new suit, like a new-ish version. Like, it's definitely more practical than it was back then. And I'm curious how they're going, like, what exactly is happening in that sequence? Like, why is it important to the narrative to have a flashback? Because Jim, even though J.K. Simmons is definitely older, they're playing it up as he's a younger Jim Gordon. So I'm wondering, like, how far back, what significance does it have to the plot of Batgirl? Maybe does it tie into Firefly? Maybe Firefly, maybe his origin, maybe he fought Batman and now he's back and he's facing Batgirl. Maybe that's the tie-in, because we don't know the context of it. But what do you think of the images? Do you think this is significant to the plot, or maybe it's just a sequence to maybe set up some sort of story plot that ties into Batgirl in the present? Because I think it's significant.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a reason they're shooting this and they're making flashbacks. Fun fact, apparently the guy who's in the suit in these photos is the same guy who's been body double for Ben Affleck and for Robert Pattinson. So I'm like, can you imagine getting to, say that I've been the Batman in 3 different iterations? That is like the coolest thing ever. And so, but this costume looks way more comfortable. Like again, I'm like, what rubber? Because obviously this is something that Keaton will have to wear at some point too. Because I'm assuming we're gonna see him wear the suit in some capacity. But this is also the important thing, is that we're dealing with a 70-year-old Batman. Like I don't think there's gonna be a lot that Keaton can do. And if he does, it's probably gonna be that, stunt double who does it and so on. Although, I mean, maybe not. I shouldn't underestimate him. Look what Willem Dafoe did 2 months ago.
I mean, in that Flash teaser that we got back at DC Fandom, they showed the behind shot of Keaton in the suit.
I'm talking about in Batgirl. I'm just talking about like in Batgirl, because in Flash, I assume you're going to see a ton of.
Well, yeah, that's true too. I'm thinking that we're still going to see him present day Batman still doing stuff. I think it's just going to be limited, and maybe these flashbacks are supposed to mean for more of tying into maybe maybe Firefly. Maybe that's the tie-in really of why we're showing the flashbacks, and maybe it's just to give us an idea of this version of a younger Bruce and how it's significant to maybe how Barbara decides to go about being Batgirl, because maybe she witnesses this sequence. Maybe she's a little girl and she somehow like looks out her window or something and her dad's right there and then she's Batman. I mean, I don't know. I think they might do that. They might go the route of where Barbara is saved by Batman, Keaton's Batman, and maybe that's what inspires her to become.
It would work timeline wise, because it's like, I guess if this is like 20 years ago, if this was 20 years ago, she'd probably be like girl. Like she would be like Grace's age. But to answer your question, this is because all y'all went on last night about Gracie. That I'm like, all I heard in my head when I went to bed, I'm like, I heard just Gracie. But to answer your question, but like, I think this is kind of like in terms of like what version we're following, I
Mhm.
think it's an amalgamation the way that they kind of did with Crisis with a lot of the Arrowverse characters, where like there is things from Burton's history that has happened, but there's also kind of like intermixed with whatever we're calling DCU now, whatever, and so on, and kind of making it a bit of a mix. I don't think Michael Keaton is going to be suddenly playing like two different Batmans in the.
Yeah,
I mean, he could, but I just don't think we're going to see both of them. So I think this is like whatever this is like a combo, which is easier. Like that way, you don't remove anything that we love so much about those
yeah.
two first films, but also
Mhm.
you can add something more. Especially like if I don't know if you guys have been to listeners, if you guys have been viewers, sorry, podcaster here, so used to just talking to like just looking to my microphone and talking, but the 89 comic is extending that mythology,
Yeah,
so
been reading that too. Yeah,
it's
it's been
so good.
interesting.
The artwork is I don't know which cover is my favorite at this point. I just love seeing it all. So
I love the first issue cover. That's like such a cool shot of him, like the cape or whatever, and just the full shot of the suit. It looks really cool. And I think you're right, the amalgamation, because I think with the Flashpoint changing the timeline and stuff, it's going to be changing some of the continuity. I bet what it's going to do is it's going to erase Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, so that because even though that's still technically under the Burton verse, because they're still technically playing the same Bruce when they recast, of course, Michael to being Val to then being George, and essentially because like they were trying to continue with that continuity, they were trying to at least. That I think they're going to remove those, and that Michael Keaton's two films are maybe canon, or maybe they're just not going to say which is and is not canon.
well,
Uh,
that was the thing because when they announced the comic, I remember they made DC made a specific point in bringing up that this is like for them Batman Forever never happened. So like they've kind of already retconned, and obviously they wouldn't go on and say that if they didn't
yeah.
have Green Light on that. So I've and like for me like I have already retconned those films in my head. So and plus now we have an actual cool Robin in the
Oh
Burtonverse.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it
but
definitely is a better approach.